Morning. Thought I'd have a cup of tea with you and myself, really. These videos are definitely autobiography. But I'm not going to sit in my closet. I'm going to sit in my most favorite comfortable place. And that's on my bed next to my side table that has everything that I need. Like a cup of tea. I wanted to tell the story of how I was taught or how I became mentally ill. It all started when I was a small child, of course. I mean, everybody's story starts there, right? And I was first born of 3 children. I had parents who were 23 when I was born. So they were very young, but not for the day. I mean, it was 1961 when I was born, and the spring of 1961. My parents liked to party, particularly my dad. My mom plays off like she didn't, but I'm a child, and my parents just go out a lot on the weekend, or they had people over, and we would be put with all the other kids, while all the parents partied. And generally, I just thought it was normal. I didn't think anything of it. I mean, there was other kids there. I was having a freaking blast. Gosh, I mean, it was just a big play date for the kids. And this went on until I was 9. But my parents started having problems and were divorced when I was 9. I went to live with my mother and my grandmother, and my grandmother, I believe, was resentful or something. That she had to take her daughter back in. They were Catholic, so it was a whole family stink that my mom got divorced. The dogma at the time was thick and heavy. So I went to live with my grandmother, who did not treat me very well verbally or mentally. She was not. She used to be this really nice grandma, brought you books on the weekend. She was your greatest grandma. Think about that. That was that person that showed up and just was so fun to see. And you were like, Grandma! And my grandma always brought books, and there was always something, and whenever you went with Grandma, you had a great time until you moved in with Grandma and she had to be with you 24/7 in her home where everybody had already moved out and what have you. She's great. I love my grandma. I love my grandma. She said some of the funniest things, but really, a lot of them were seriously abusive. She didn't believe some, oh, baloney. Oh, you're full of malarkey. Or even you'd be telling her the straight up truth or something, and she would just be like, oh, nonsense. So it was completely invalidating all the time. All the time. Yeah. And she would call me lazy. And, while I was doing the dishes, the dinner dishes, hand washing them. I started hand washing dishes when I was 9 years old, okay? And I'm sure some of you started washing dishes when you were 2. That's not the point. The point is I moved in there, and I'd never done any of this, and now I have this woman that I was so excited and happy to go be with and live with, because my parents were a nightmare, okay? They're fighting, my dad is drunk, and it was not a good dynamic, okay? But Grandma, she's great. And anyway, this is supposed to be the road to how I became mentally ill. I had a lot to do with this family dynamic. Everything that I did, said, felt, expressed was wrong. I never learned to control my emotions. So basically, what I'm saying is they just didn't know what they were doing. And they were young. They were 23 years old. And then they had my brother at, 25. And then I had my sister at 26. My dad, we had to go get him out of jail. I remember we went on a trip to get him out of jail. Boy, but he was an angry, angry man. And I was terrified of him. I still am to this day. I'm just terrified of him. So, he was just big and loud and yelling. He was super tall and heavy, and he was just big to me. He was just this really larger than life, louder than... And there was stuff. There was just other stuff. But anyway, so they got divorced. I went to live with my mom, and my mom became concerned with herself. She kept telling me that it was all about us kids, and that she had to go to college so she could make money so she could support us. And this all seems relatively reasonable, and it is. But that's all no. She sewed my clothes, and she played games with me and made sure that I had art to do. But then she just wanted to find a new man. So things progressed. It was like, she was like this really good mama that used to take me on special waffle morning dates to this woman who left me home alone as a teenager in charge of my brother and sister for entire weekends while she went to ski club trips or parents thought partners, this or that, or whatever she did to pursue a new man. And she went through a lot of boyfriends. She didn't actually get married until I was an adult and moved out of the house. So there was 9-10 years of my life where she never even captured this new man. She went to college and she started a job, and we always made her late for work. I guess I couldn't get out of bed. So she did. She had it rough. I'm trying to be fair to this woman who taught me how to be mentally ill. My mother was always telling me that how I felt was wrong. She wasn't paying any attention to me. Everything I said was wrong. Everything I did was wrong. Everything I felt was wrong. Everyone I knew was not good. All the neighbor ladies were crazy. All of our neighbor ladies that lived with us in this, oh my God, the things she would criticize and say about everyone we lived with. She thought she was better than everyone. I grew up with that. It probably was rubbed off on me in some way without, my self-awareness hasn't, got that far yet. So if I've ever offended anyone. But she started telling me that there was something wrong with me when I was young. I can't remember her telling me that, I shouldn't feel that way, or I shouldn't cry so much or whatever. She threw water on me if I would get super upset, and she would throw water on me to calm me down. Because I couldn't get through to her. I was just screaming to get through to her. And she made me go see a psychologist when at 15, she made me walk there. I saw him until I was 19 or 20. And he would just counsel me on problems, at home. And when I got old enough, when I became 18, he started telling me that I probably, because he would meet with my mother and I periodically. He started telling me that I needed to, maybe think about what I was going to do, to work or something, to move out, to get out. And by 19, I had moved out, and it was just after I moved out, I became independent, I stopped seeing him. And, but he had told me I needed to get away from my mother. And I didn't live with my mother for a long time. The next time I lived with my mother, I went to Texas. I had moved to Texas, and I'd lived there for about 4 or 5 years. I can't remember exactly the amount of time. And she made me go see somebody then too. And I went to see him pretty regularly, and I like these people. It was good to get it out, And then he started to want to see my mom. He saw my mom, and I feel like he saw us as a family too for once. And then he was really good and got some big promotion somewhere and went. He also told me I needed to probably take a break from my mother. That my relationship with my mother was not healthy, and that she was not healthy for me. My mother, the reason I started seeing him was she told me I had bipolar disorder. So this is where it goes. This is how I became mentally ill. My mother told me I had bipolar disorder. She told me, she said, you need to go see a psychiatrist, and you're going to go see this psychiatrist. It was on Middle Belt Highway. She wanted me to go see this specific psychiatrist, but because I think it was sliding scale, and tell him that I had bipolar, tell him that I had mood swings. I don't remember everything. Mood swings. Sometimes I was depressed. Sometimes I was, she gave me this list of stuff. And honestly, because none of it was true, I don't really remember exactly what she told me. But it was enough that I told him, and he believed me, and he put me on lithium. And that really messed with me. I became really depressed and suicidal, and oh my God, it was terrible. The medication made me sick. So now I was having a depressive, and just, I didn't even started going to mental hospitals, volunteering myself into mental hospitals. Gosh. As a young adult, right around that time, 18, 19, because I thought it would help please my mom. I thought that they would find out what was wrong with me because I couldn't do anything right. So they would find out what was wrong with me and they would fix me. So I kept going in and out because they couldn't fix me, because what was wrong with me was my relationship with my mother. Okay? And there's no pill that fixes that. The things I did that I didn't want to do to try to please her made her believe that I was a quitter and I never finished anything. So I was berated for never finishing anything. Well, I wanted to be like an artist or something at the time. I am an artist. I don't even know. But you're not going to make any money in that. You're going to have to be, and nothing pleased her. Nothing pleased her. And then I had to go to college, but she was not going to pay for it because if I didn't get good grades, I had to prove to her. And then she never, ever ended up paying for my college. Her new husband eventually was saying that if you finish college, that we'll pay for it. We'll pay for it, because he'd paid for his daughter, whatever. I finished college. No one ever put out a dime. And I have student loans that I couldn't pay because it took me so long, it took me 13 years to complete this college from my mother. I never even walked. I never wore the graduation cap. I know all this. So most recently, but I mean, it's just like a long trip. So I have all these behaviors and these manipulations. And I had a nurse wonder if it could be Munchausen's by proxy, but she'd never heard of that with mental health. So she wasn't sure. But it was like a constant, really it's my mom. She's narcissistic and not mentally well. I don't understand what's wrong with her. I'm not a doctor. I can't diagnose her. All I know is she left me my feeling that every decision I make, crunchy or creamy peanut butter. What are you going to be when you grow up? I question everything I've ever done. And boy, I've done some shitty things, I think. That people would morally call, I don't know, because it seems to me everybody's doing shit like that these days. I never knew who I was because I was always being told who I should be. And she was my mom. So I stopped talking to her. I got involved, after college, I got involved with a couple of guys who were on a morning radio show. I decided I wanted to try to do that. And so I worked real hard to try to do that. And I didn't speak to my mom during that time. Even for some time after, actually. It wasn't until cancer that I spoke to my mom. But I didn't talk to her for 9 years. And I did some stuff in that 9 years. I played a radio character and, raised my kids, best I could. I was crazy. I did some stuff. I partied. Yeah. Too much. And I didn't do it at home. I did it away from home, and then I came home. I didn't do it very often at home. But I went out with all the people because of the radio station and all this stuff. And I started meeting a lot of people, and I have some regrets. I regret ever meeting those two men. I regret who I became. That's another story. And then I get sick, and I started talking to my mom. I started talking to her before that. I just wasn't feeling right, and I just needed my mom. And it turned out I had cancer. I reunited with my mom in the end of 2017, and when the test came in, I had this cancer. I had leukemia. And so my mom hung out with me for a year through that. But it just became more and more toxic. It started telling me how I should feel and saying terrible things about how was not a success in life. Or she would talk about my brother and how he wasn't a success in life and all the mistakes that she thought he made and that he could have done so much better. And just really awful, critical, just of everybody. I felt sorry for her, and I invited her to this wedding. I asked the people getting married, and they said yeah. Invited her to the wedding, and she sat there for 2 hours. So sorry she sat there, because she only lived 10 minutes down the road. Not 10 minutes, probably. Not even 10 minutes. while we were out doing this photograph thing. And, people were supposed to be cash barring and everything. We were just getting hungry. My mom was sitting around and criticizing all my friends and all their friends. And I came back and she had some things to say about people, and she was so far off. My favorite criticism was of one where she said, I just hate when people try to dress younger and look younger than they are. I was like, that woman is 50 years younger than you. She's like, mom's 84. I was like, trying to act, what? Just vile. Oh, and then I did something vile at the wedding too. I did something vile at the wedding. I took something out on someone there that I should never let bother me, because they're just not, it's not important. But I was with my mother, I was just empowered. Got something off my chest. Sorry that happened to that person. Really am sorry to that. So I stopped talking to my mother again. I had to. My mom's behavior during my leukemia just got more and more toxic. She even once was banned from the hospital. She never broke the ban, but so there was never an incident or anything. Thank God. But there was at one point when if she'd showed up, she was not going to be allowed to my room, that they would have stopped her. Just for like fuck yous. I mean, she would just start screaming fuck you at me. Here I am like dying, of leukemia. And she would want me to do something that was only beneficial to her, but using me to benefit her, okay? Even though I'm sick in bed with leukemia. This is a thing that she's done. Like borrow my kid to impress, it's just crazy stuff. Get angry. Well, just lose her. When she wouldn't get her way, she'd start screaming bitch or fuck you. And so she kind of got banned from the hospital. Then finally I got well, and I had to stop. I had to stop talking to her. I couldn't do it anymore. We told her I had borderline personality disorder, because for a while there we thought maybe that might be the problem. And so we started attacking from that view. And it turned out that really what's wrong with me is I have PTSD and emotional instability. Seriously, shit just keeps happening to me. If you used to watch my stuff, you'll get to know. They were going to give me a bone marrow transplant. And my brother, the first thing we needed to do was contact my family members, my brother and my sister, because we needed to see if they were a match. So I get a hold of my mother, and my mother starts screaming at me. She is so angry that I'm stunned. I'm just like on the phone like, what is going on here? She said, so I get real cold because I don't understand why she's screaming at me. So I, immediately start protecting myself with the armor. No, right? This woman is hysterically screaming because I said to her, my brother and my sister, they, need to have their blood tested, or I need to ask them to have their blood tested to see if they're a bone marrow match. Lost her mind. Oh my gosh, do you know what you're... I can't even remember what she said because it was so hysterical and ridiculous. I don't want to start pretending what she was saying because it was so hysterical and ridiculous that I was just stunned. Like, why would my sister and brother not want to have their blood test to see if they were a bone marrow match? What are you saying? About my, relationship with them, and what is... I don't talk to them. They don't talk to me. It's one of those things. I'm a black sheep of the family. We'll get a story about that because I've been taught I was mentally ill and behaved as such. Whatever anybody told me that I was, I believed it. I was gullible. Anything my mother wanted, anything. Major depression, it doesn't matter. Whatever my mama wanted me to be, I tried to be it because I wanted my mama to love me. I know what she did was wrong. She can't admit what she did was wrong. I know it wasn't me. My inner child is right here, right now. It just is okay because I don't know if it's my fault. Sure, there's behaviors I've done as an adult that I knew better and I shouldn't do, but my mental health was not in a place that allowed me to behave in a manner that I would now with the self-awareness that I've gained. I finally asked her, I'm like, why? Why are you screaming at me? I don't understand why you're saying, what are you doing? Why are you saying these things? And she just yells, because I might lose a daughter. Literally, like I heard those breaks in my brain. And I said back to her, so wait a minute, let me get this straight. So this is all about you then? And what's going to happen to you again? She said, fuck you. And she hung up on me. And we only tried to communicate through email. U of M had trouble even believing that my family would treat me this way until they did. And it just got to the point where everybody decided, including myself, that the bone marrow transplant was not in my best interest because there was no one there to support us. We couldn't meet the requirements of having someone that lived within 90 miles or 90 minutes. I guess it's 90 minutes, 90 miles, the same thing. 100 miles, 90 minutes, I guess. We had, all those problems of having no support through bone marrow transplant, which is, it's a crazy thing. I asked my mother for money. I never spoke to my mother after she screamed at me. I sent emails and she refused to email because she felt she couldn't control me. She would write that she won't email me. She started having my brother and I as a mediator, which that's a whole other story. My brother is just like her. I'm just going to say that. Same tale. So we go and decide that we can't do this. We just can't do this. I don't have what it takes. Again, I'm not good enough. She couldn't be in control of it. She couldn't control the manner in which we spoke. She tried to tell my brother that I never even contacted her, that I, did all this stuff. It's like, what? It was just like my brother would just I was on her side for some reason, even black and white print and just all kinds of things are in front of him. He's totally the same. He was the only human being within my family that lived within the required amount of time for the hospital, the 100 miles, 90 minutes, 100 miles. He effectively lived about 30 minutes from the hospital that was going to be performing a bone marrow transplant and refused to do the job after he saw the paperwork for it. And the paperwork stated that he would promise to take care of me if something happened to my primary caregiver, being my husband, who's still here today. And by the way, it's been 15 months later, and that's 5 months longer, or no, almost over 15. Well, never mind. The point is, he refused to do it in case something happened to my husband because he didn't want to be responsible. Because what about his life? It would have to change his whole world if he had to take care of me. He didn't even understand what taking care of me might have entailed. he didn't understand that, and he didn't understand that it could also be a very temporary situation, even if something did happen to my husband, and that there were other people that just lived all the way, 2.5, 3 hours from the transplant hospital and could not fulfill what they would, some people would have been happy to help me. Okay. So there was that with him. All right. Finally, my mother was invited to go see my therapist for a consultation. During that time, she said, well, I gave her money. Like I said, I never asked for money. I needed support. I needed maybe help from the church. I needed whatever, things that she could provide that I just couldn't do. And I'm very sick, and I need a bone marrow transplant. And the craziness, I'm sorry. It's just, so during the session, she said that she had given me money and that she couldn't afford to help me with a bone marrow transplant, and still not understanding that nobody was asking her for money. Not really. Just asking her for support or, help to raise the money, or, what we were going to do with certain things here. Nope. And she said, but I will be happy to pay for her funeral. My therapist said she had to sit with that for a while. That's what she said. She would be happy to pay for my funeral. I haven't talked to her. She's 80 something, 85, 84, 85. I don't know. I have to figure it out. And I just know what happened. I know what happened. She just kept feeding me, and in my need, as from a very little girl, to about 10 years ago, my need to make my mama think I was okay, that I was a good that I did her proud. Something is never going to happen. The things she says about my brother behind his back to me were just like, I was his mom, As she, and I'm telling you this not to hurt my brother if he should ever to see this, but it's the truth, and it's my story, and it's what happens to me. Okay. I had to be with this woman who criticizes everything. I do not believe that I lived the life that I deserved because that woman took up so much space in my head. And left me believing, still probably, that I am not good enough for anything. I'm not good enough at anything, even my own self. That I'm not even good at self, which is a lot of bullshit. I'll tell you, I'm going to be one of the most honest and self-aware people you've ever met. Welcome to my videos. So that was my road to mental illness. Like I said, I did everything I could to please her and try to fix myself, from going in and out of mental hospitals. And boy, I knew how to convince them that I needed to be there, and they always threw me out. Well, yeah. Or there was one dirty one that wouldn't let me go until my insurance ran out. That was so fucking scary. There are just so many things that I've gone through and whatever, just to fix myself. Just to fix me. And just trying to fix me. Now I have leukemia, and again, I'm just trying to fix me to please everyone. I know that I'm broken. Wow. No. Pretty intense. All right. Thanks for hanging out for this one. Have a good one.